This episode of Lobbing Scorchers is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based seller. Not only are they a local company, but they've been supporting independent Seattle soccer media since 2011 and are run by Sounders fans. They offer the best boutique wines in the world to members of their mailing list with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Their model is simple. 1, they email compelling offers. 2, you request bottles that sound appealing. 3, your wine arrives at their Soto warehouse and is ready for pickup or shipping. Their Soto tasting room is also open to the public. If you're interested in joining their mailing list or learning more about them, visit fullpullwines.com. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 79, Lobbing Scorchers. This is Ari Liljenwall. Got producer Noah here with me. And folks, the MLS offseason is in full swing, and we've got some headlines to cover. Noah, how are you feeling?
I feel excited, rejuvenated, like rumor milled. I'm on Twitter just constantly refreshing Tom Bogert's account, hoping, praying that there's something new, something in the water. We've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah. For sickos like us, this is actually one of the more fun parts of the year. I'm the same way. Transfer season, I love obsessing over all the roster movement and the transfers and, picturing the fits of players on their new teams and stuff. So we're going to have a good offseason talking about all of that. For this one, we got a new sporting director for Atlanta United with Seattle Sounders ties. A few roster moves around MLS. Nothing major, but a couple of things to talk about, and I'm sure there will be more to come on that front as we go forward in the offseason. We've got some updates on the Seattle Sounders' ongoing attempt to plunder the roster of FC Dallas. We're going to give our thoughts on that.
It'll be updates if you just listen to the podcast, which I'm sure you can hit on the live show part of this.
Yes, exactly. But
Sorry, I totally derailed that, Ari.
You're good. I'd have to get this ad read. Lobbing Scorchers is part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network. If you want to get the best independent Seattle soccer coverage, consider supporting us by going to sounderatheart.com/LS. That's sounderatheart.com/LS. Scroll down to subscribe and support to get 30 days completely free. Every sign up through our link helps support and grow this show. No, I believe we have one new sub to thank. Who we got?
We have one new sub, Brian Walker. Brian Walker, thank you for being sub number. I'm not actually sure because I don't have the complete sheet up.
I think it's over 50.
I think it's 51.
I think we are at 51, which is a great number. We love to see that. If you want to support the show and you enjoy the content, the absolute best way to do that is to subscribe to Sounder at Heart by using our link at sounderatheart.com/LS. Another great way you can support the show,
especially if you're watching us on YouTube.
Yes. You can subscribe to the Lobbing Scorchers YouTube. Noah, the drive to 850 subs is alive and well.
We've been stacking and racking.
And it's about the drive to 1,000 ultimately, and we're actually pretty close to being on that road, which is exciting. But to get there, we have to hit 850. So go ahead and hit subscribe. We're gonna have a lot more content on YouTube coming all off season, including some more live shows. We did our second ever live show.
It was not a flop.
Week, and it was not a flop. It was really, I consider it kind of our debut.
Yeah.
Because we did one after the game in LA, but that was sort of crash course, testing it out. It was only for 20, 30 minutes. I popped in for 2 seconds at the end, didn't really dish any takes or anything. But we did our first full live show. And yeah, smashing success. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. I think we had about 100 people in there, simultaneously at the apex of it. Ended up pulling over 1,000 views on YouTube, which for us is really good. So excited to keep doing those, and we are going to do one this weekend. We're gonna have some Sounders stuff to talk about. Hoping to get some information on their schedule release, which if so, we'll definitely react to that. So tune in for our next live show. It's scheduled for Friday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, I believe. Is that right?
Something like that. You can go on our YouTube channel. It'll say upcoming live streams. Hit the little bell button, and you'll be notified when we go live. Easy.
No, we did unfortunately have someone who was quite unhappy in our YouTube comments. This is a good plug, actually. Noah did a interview with Jordan Morris about his diabetes charity, and you guys talked about some other stuff too. It was a good interview, but I think it was mostly charity-based content. That's something that's important to him off the field, and so we gave him a little shine for that. apparently Chris was not happy about that.
No, he was not.
So he crashed out in the Lobbing Scorchers YouTube comments, and I only bring it up. I mean, so you were going back and forth with him a little bit, which I thought was funny, but I parachuted in, saw what was going on, and just banned him immediately.
Yeah.
Don't be a crash out, Chris. But the reason I bring it up is because from now on, anyone who crashes out in our YouTube comments is going to be known as a crash out, Chris. And if you're a crash out, Chris, you're probably going to get banned. You know, you can always come if you want to talk ball and you want to come in and disagree with us and you lambast our takes.
Yeah,
totally fine. In fact, encouraged.
Yep.
But if you crash out and start throwing around crazy toxic stuff, I mean, we're just going to ban you. So don't be a crash out, Chris. Guys.
We're all for content, a little trolling here and there,
spirited debate.
Come at us. We'll take it. Don't you ever be a crash out, Chris, though, because you're gone. You're gone, buddy. You're gone, buddy. Pack it up.
Get him out of here. Yeah.
Get that guy out of here.
The whole thing with crash out, Chris, actually, it made me appreciate the brigade a little more because, you know, like the brigade, they don't like our takes always all the time, but like they're good natured about it. You know, crash out, Chris was going crazy.
Brigade, crash out, Chris. Yeah. Down here, down below.
Brigade stock up, crash out, Chris. Stock down
in the gutter.
All right, let's get to a few of these headlines from around MLS. We'll get to the Sounders stuff later. Off-season shows without games might take a little bit of different format from time to time. So today we're going to start with the league-wide news, which I think the biggest story, definitely the biggest story of the day, Noah, was the news that Chris Henderson is departing Inter Miami CF, where he built the super team with Lionel Messi and the Barca boys. Helped build, I should say. Yeah. You got to give David Beckham and Jorge Mas their credit there as well. But Chris Hendo, he was really on the ground for all of that for them from their ascent from kind of a joke of a team under a bunch of MLS roster sanctions.
An illegal team.
Yeah, with like 5 DPs, but still getting 12th on the table.
Yeah.
And they're now a Lionel Messi-led, Barcelona-laden juggernaut. Thanks in part to the work done by Chris Henderson as sporting director. He now joins Garth Lagerwey at Atlanta United. They're back. They got the gang back together, and it continues the time-honored Atlanta United strategy of poaching Seattle Sounders. Basically, trying to become Seattle Sounders East between Gonzo Pineda, Garth Lagerwey, and now Chris Henderson. But obviously, this is a big move because you've got an Atlanta United club, right, that they are downtrodden the last few years. Took the league by storm when they first got to MLS and have fallen off quite a bit. Carlos Bocanegra is out of there. Garth Lagerwey, he went there from Seattle. I think it seems like he thought that they were further along than they actually were in some ways.
They fleeced him a little bit.
A lot of his press conferences this year, I got the vibe from Garth that he was like, wow, it's a lot more messed up around here than I thought. I don't know what's going on with this roster, but I'm going to have to bring my old buddy Chris Henderson back. My take on this, though, is that, I mean, it's the obvious move for Atlanta United. And I guess the way I feel about it, Noah, is that if this doesn't work for them, I don't know what will. You know, I liked the Gonzo Pineda hire when they made it. That didn't work out. Garth Lagerwey so far has not had the impact that I think they thought he would. Although, to be fair, he's still early on in his tenure. But I think if you're thinking of it from Atlanta United's perspective as a high percentage move that seems destined to put them on a better track, I think this would be it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we have to dwell on the comedy of Atlanta United fans deeply believing in their hearts that Seattle ruined soccer, and then immediately after that happening, they're like, we're actually going to do everything in our power to create Seattle Sounders of the East. We're going to get Gonzo, we're going to get Garth, and now we're going to
fire Gonzo, and then we're going to get Chris Henderson.
Yeah, it's just, the bit is incredible. And also, I think it's funny that they fired Gonzo because he landed in Liga MX. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, not that that's an upgrade or a downgrade, but it's like clearly there's some value in him being a coach, and maybe there was a lot more to do with the roster than, just the coaching issues. But who knows? I'm excited to see what they cook up there. I mean, they have a lot to do in a short amount of time, and I don't really think they're going to be competitive this season, no matter what moves they make.
Atlanta?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be super competitive.
I'll be interested to see because for all their struggles in recent years, Arthur Blank is, I mean, he's kind of like exactly. He's kind of an executive's dream in terms of the amount of resources and money he's willing to put into it. They haven't gotten the return on that in recent years, really since Miggy Almiron and Joseph Martinez. They have not gotten the return on the massive investments that they've made. But in theory, if you give a guy with Chris Henderson's experience and knowledge and acumen that type of checkbook and those types of resources, you can see why you'd think that was the right move.
Okay, they'll win the Open Cup. Okay, fine. They can win the Open Cup.
Yeah. I mean, it is. So it's hard to know how much of Chris Henderson's success at Miami was due to him, how much of it was David Beckham and Jorge Mas. I think the most obvious roster building strategy I could think of for any pro soccer team in any league is sign Lionel Messi.
Yeah,
I don't know how much credit you get for that. But they still, their whole brass there, they built that team. They got it done. So David Beckham leverage or not, they did get it done. And then I also do think you can look at Chris Henderson's track record dating back to his Seattle days, which we are all familiar with, and know that this is like, he definitely knows what he's doing as it pertains to building an MLS roster. He made a lot of great signings, or helped facilitate a lot of great signings along with Garth in Seattle. And they both, I think, helped set up and ultimately have a prospering youth development program here in Seattle. Chris and Garth, I think, are two guys that you have to give at least some degree of credit for that, like building the foundation that Seattle has used to rise near the top of the league over these last 5-6 years. So we'll see how that pans out. But yeah, that was the headline of the day. Hendo on the move. It might seem weird to, if I was an executive at Inter Miami with where they're at right now, I might never leave. You get to live in Miami and your team is pretty much set up as well as it possibly could be, at least for next year. But the feeling I get is that he kind of enjoys the build, it seems like. So that, for anyone wondering why he would seemingly downgrade in terms of the quality of the club and roster and take on a rebuilding project, I think that's kind of the point.
I mean, I think I see where you're coming from, but I also think it might be a note of some internal Miami struggles and strife. Some potential things are not as great on the outside, or they're not as good on the inside as they look on the outside. I think that's the case with Tata leaving. And I don't know that it's like melting down in Miami. I just think that there was probably a point where Henderson was like, you know what? I'm going to actually be able to do a lot more and going to be able to have a lot more opportunity to, do like a rebuild or something like that if I do move on to a place like Atlanta. But I do think it's an interesting storyline that we should track about Inter Miami, and kind of like they had two really big figureheads leave the team in short succession. And I don't know. That's interesting. And now apparently maybe they'll sign Neymar. Rumor.
Is that in the rumor mill?
That's
I don't know if I saw
mill.
that one. I'm okay. I mean,
I don't believe it, but I think people were saying that it's most likely just to try and strong arm the Saudi team that he plays for to give him more money. But
okay, that would make sense. Well, either way, we'll see. We'll see if Atlanta United can rise back up to the top of the East this year. I think they got to be improved. I have a hard time believing just with how much investment they put into it that they would still be. I mean, every year that I think that they end up struggling again. And I still feel schadenfreude over the year that the Seattle Sounders killed soccer against them, like you mentioned.
I mean, to one last thing to that point is we talk a lot about how it's hard to integrate a bunch of new pieces into a cohesive team. I just think that's where they're going to struggle. Is you gotta kind of find your identity again. You're gonna have they have some really good pieces, but they're gonna go out and add a lot more, and piecing that all together in some sort of way that's going to work. I don't
know. Transfer season in full effect. We're going to be debuting a new segment here. But before that, there are two minor moves that took place in the last few days. I was looking at the MLSsoccer.com transfer tracker today, and it hasn't been that hot so far. It's been a lot of like homegrown MLS Next Pro guys or like role players that a lot of people haven't heard of. But there have been a few. I think the most notable move of the offseason so far is the Chicago Fire signing Jack Elliott from the Philadelphia Union. Chicago Fire, they're rebuilding with Greg Berhalter as their head coach. And this is like Berhalter's first major move. And it's not surprising that this was the move that he chose to make, because I think Greg's got to be looking at it like, all right, task number one here is just building a defense that's doesn't even have to be good.
Yeah.
Just league average.
Yep.
That's the Chicago Fire's 2025 season. The wins and losses, trophies don't matter. I think can Greg Berhalter build a functional MLS defense that doesn't blow leads every time they have it, and frankly, doesn't melt down pretty much on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
If they get out of this next season with that foundation in place, I think they're in a good direction. Jack Elliott, I could see being a piece to that, as far as he's a proven MLS center back who has been grinding with the Philly Union for years, and they before this last year where it all got away from them, they were known as a very good defensive team. So I think that's a telling first move for Greg Berhalter with the Chicago Fire. You have any Jack Elliott takes?
Jack Elliott. I mean, I think it's a good signing.
He's been a good CB for the Union.
Yeah, like I don't know if it's blockbuster news like some people are making it out to be, but I think it's a great signing. I mean, that's a good pickup for a team that they need something, man. They need something. I'm interested to see what Greg does on that team.
I know. If he does fix their defense even at all, I'll be disappointed, because the Chicago Fire, they provide. I think one of my favorite moments of this season was when I predicted that they were going to score the first goal against the Sounders and then immediately blow the lead. Yeah. And then they exactly did that. It was like, it
was great.
I know them too well.
Yeah, it was great. Like I was sitting next to two Chicago Fire fans at that game, and they scored first. They were stoked, and I looked at them. I said,
"Just watch what happens.
Just wait. Just wait." And they were like, "Shut up, bro." And then we scored, and they were like, "Yeah."
They knew what was coming.
Yeah.
The Philly Union, speaking of them, have re-signed Alejandro Bedoya. That was the only other really notable move of the last couple days to my eye. Team captain, been a pillar for them. Now 37 years old, but like, I don't know, watching him last year for however much the Union struggled, like I think Bedoya's kind of still got it, and they've got him in this, like, I don't know if you knew about this, they have him in this like dual role where he's like helping their scouting or player development or something. It's not even like player coach, it's more like player executive.
Player development? Oh,
almost. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. But anyway, they're keeping Bedoya. And but we'll see. The Philly Union are a club there's going to be a lot of changes there too. I mean, Jim C is out. Mm-hmm. They're in a situation where their money balling, which they had ridden to great effect the last few years, kind of stopped working this year. So that's another club to keep an eye on over the offseason. All right. New segment time, Noah. This one is called The Rumor Mill. Why don't you tell people what this is all about?
All right. The Rumor Mill, Ari. We're spinning up. We're doing a windmill formation here. We are going to talk about who's in the news with the Seattle Sounders with some off-season moves. It's going to be a big one for the Sounders, apparently. I mean, I think we had kind of predicted that it might be a big off-season, but
definitely the rumor mill that has taken hold is different than I didn't expect this much FC Dallas, but that's what we got. Well, so why don't you lay down the rumors and then we'll give our takes on them. I'm assuming that was your idea for the format.
Idea of the format, but we cook on this show. So starting off with the biggest blockbuster trade this might be like the biggest blockbuster trade in MLS history too, which is kind of insane. Jesus Ferreira traded to Seattle. That's wild. He's a DP right now, but apparently, allegedly, in the rumor mill, this trade
hasn't gone through.
This hasn't gone through yet. Yeah, but this deal hinges on him agreeing to a non-DP contract, which seems to be okay with Ferreira, and it's close to being done. So it seems like reportedly, it's close to being done. So these are. That's a big deal. So that is the first one. Number two, another FC Dallas legend, Paul Arriola, is another rumored transfer to Seattle, which would also be a trade where FC Dallas would reportedly hold $1 million or more of his current contract, which we talked about it on the live stream. He makes an insane amount of money on his contract. It was like, what,
1.7?
Yeah, 1.7. That's crazy. And that trade may or may not involve a player. These are all alleged, reported, rumor mill stuff. Now, the next thing we've got here might make a certain select group of individuals unhappy, but it seems likely that Albert Rusnak will be coming back as a designated player to Seattle. Though that contract is not signed, nothing is done yet. That's just seemingly what it's looking like. And then another one here, Leo Chu to Fluminense. The rumor mill is starting up again. I haven't really seen this one.
Yeah. What is this?
Apparently, there's been no official offers, but there is interest from Brazilian clubs to bring him back. But I don't really think they're interested in paying a transfer fee. And I don't really see this one as... if we're going to rate these, this one's definitely lower on the potential happening. And then last but not least, in an interview with Sounder at Heart, Craig Weibel talked about, contract negotiations. He mentioned Albert Rusnak. He also mentioned Jordan Morris. It's not really a rumor, but it is something that's happening in this offseason. So that's something to keep track of. That is the rumor mill that we have going on right now. So maybe we just hop into the first one. We haven't talked about it on the podcast, but Jesus Ferreira to Seattle, blockbuster trade. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's not really a like-for-like trade in MLS history as far as this like age and profile of player. And, I feel like I've been pretty consistent on my thoughts on this, which is that, Tam, I actively love it. DP, I'm less enthused. I mean, that's basically how I think I'm going to feel about this the whole way. I mean, for me, we've heard kind of conflicting reports or opinions on whether or not this would be as a DP or on TAM money. I mean, this is simple for me. If you're Craig Weibs and company, you say, we'll take you for TAM money. We'll give you a platform on a really good team to show your skills. And if you ball out, we'll shop you for a bag and you'll go somewhere where you'll make the type of money that you feel like your market demands. If you need it to be a DP contract to be on this team, we just can't do it. We can't do it. And I would draw a hard line on that. And I definitely would not. I'd be very apprehensive about some sort of situation where it felt like they got strong armed into making this a DP move. I honestly don't know at this juncture what the exact intent here is on both sides. All I know is what we've heard, which, like I said, is feels conflicting to me as far as the players' willingness to come here on TAM, the team's stance on TAM versus DP, but that's how I see it.
Yeah, I'm excited at the prospect, honestly, regardless. I know that most people are going to be upset about that.
I would be hyped to have him on the team for TAM money. And if you think that Jesus Ferreira on TAM money is bad business in MLS, I think your ball knowledge might not be what you think it is. That would be really good business.
I don't even care if he was on a DP personally. Like, I'm cool with that, because if you have a 2-year DP slot for a 24-year-old who he had a down season, but like long term is still an upgrade at the striker, right? Like, in someone who wants to go to Europe. So if you're like, hey, whatever, you're going to be here a season or two and then we'll move you on and we could bring someone else in and maybe we get a transfer fee out of it. I don't understand what the hate is on this guy. I think it's because he's a USMNT washout. Like, there's just this like crazy hatred for him, but he's not even a washout.
Well, so it's partially that. It's partially because he's coming from MLS and not an outside league.
He's not coming
partially
from
because
Switzerland.
His production was down last year and he was injured last year. But I think that's a lot of looking at only the negatives and not acknowledging the fact that he has 53 MLS goals and is a proven MLS player. Mm-hmm. I would be excited to have him on the team and see how he fits into this attack. I think like they need to make a signing like this, and ideally one more to bolster this attack. And I think it's a good start. I think we talked about it on the live show, but I think the consternation is the notion that this would be the move, and you don't make any other moves to bolster your attack outside of Jesus Ferreira. I get people being underwhelmed like that. I'm with you in the sense that if it did turn out to be on a DP deal, I don't think it would be the end of the world. I wouldn't melt down about it, but I like the idea much more on TAM money. Let's go to the Paul Arriola one. Nico Moreno reported that this deal is nearing completion. So it seems like Paul Arriola to Seattle could be on. Not confirmed yet. We'll see what happens. I'm sure he's still evaluating what he wants to do. I'll give my take on that, which is pretty much the same as it has been, which is that, I mean, if FC Dallas is picking up that much of his salary and you can bring him in as more of a depth piece than like a week in, week out, carry the load, counted on starter, then I would be happy to have him on the roster too. Like, I know it's memeable because it's like you're poaching two FC Dallas USMNT former USMNT players that like that fan base doesn't like and all that. But as far as on its face, like, I think both moves on the right numbers are pretty good. That can't be it. That can't be it. It would be my word of caution. Like, they're good supplementary moves, and Ferreira is a big time move, but I would not want that to be the only attacking addition.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Sure.
Paul Arriola too. I believe that FC Dallas have deployed him as a wingback, and we've talked about like an attacking skill set because he's a winger by trade, but he can play back a line.
I think that's probably where he would play. His back.
And like, I think that actually has the potential to bring a lot more of a dynamic presence from Seattle's wide defenders than they've had, because Paul Arriola, he can actually play that game, and he's pretty good at it. Like, he was a good MLS winger in his heyday before injuries kind of derailed him at FC Dallas. So I don't mind the flyer if the money's right.
It's a good depth piece. I don't really care who you are. He's proven in MLS. Again, these are not flashy signings, but I don't really know what anyone was expecting if they were really... We'll talk about our expectations at the end, but like, every indication that I ever get from this team is that they would rather sign someone who is proven, who has some upside, who can do well, than like some random $10 million Euro transfer. Like, what they want to do is they want to spend big on potentially youth prospects, like a U22 initiative, and bring them in and then let them like develop as a potential. They would rather do that than go spend $20 million on a transfer fee, bring someone in, and then they flop. Like, I just see like that's what their strategy is. I'm not saying that's right, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't be frustrated, but if you're in that mindset, I think this is a great move from both of these players. Now, here's the controversial one. Albert Rusnak back as a DP. Do I even touch this with a 10-foot pole, Ari? I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, so it seems like the reporting on this right now is that the expectation is that he will return and that it will be as a DP, which is not what a lot of people might have wanted to hear. Taylor Twellman himself, he jumped in your mentions, Noah, to say that he doesn't love Rusnak as a DP, which is a sentiment that a lot of people have. I still can't say that I really get it. Like, I made this point a few times, but I don't think people's evaluation would be the same on this at all if Rusnak was a signing that came to MLS from outside the league. If he was like, take his past MLS track record out of it, take his 2 years or his year or so with the Sounders where he was playing out of position out of it, if they had signed this guy from any league overseas that you want to name, he came in as a DP and he had the season he had where he pushed 30 goal contributions, there would be no debate about this. And even the brigade knows that that is true. Yep. In your heart, you know that is true. If your perception of the deal would be at all different, like if he had come to the league this year from some other league, then I think you're basing it on stuff that's just like not relevant to his attacking output and how well he's played since he's been on the team. And really, this year was the first time he was the full-time number 10. And to my eye, he delivered the production that you need. I liked how he ran the offense. I think he's elite on set pieces. I really I was like, man, if TT's telling Noah he doesn't love it, there's got to be. And I just thought about it more, and I was like, I don't see what's wrong with it. And we rate the player more than some out there, but that's that. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
I mean, listen, and listen here. We're the sentiment, the anti-Rusnak Brigade sentiment, I will say, is seeping into Sounder at Heart discourse, because I was listening on my way over here to No Sarietes, and guess who was preaching a little, we shouldn't bring him back on a DP. The No Sarietes boys were preaching that sentiment. So I think we might be the last two standing. I think we're the
last two standing, and I think that he's like Tam not a DP is the prevailing conventional wisdom, and I'm sorry, I have to challenge it. Like there's nothing output wise that you're realistically could hope, unless you scout up like an insane like player that can push 30 goal contributions and exceed that.
Which hell yeah, please do it.
If you find that player, then do it. Move off Rusnak and do it. People seem to think that player is just, you go out and you say, hey, there he is, and you say, do you want to be a Seattle Sounders? And he says, yeah, and then he's on the team and he puts up 30 plus goal contributions. That's just not how it works. That's not living in reality. And I understand it might be like might be satisfying, or you might feel righteous in arguing otherwise. But like, I just I'm gonna dig in and doubling down on this, because the more that this kind of underrating him goes on, the more convicted I feel in our take on it.
Here's what I'll say. Here's my current take on the situation. If you can get him on a TAM deal, yes, absolutely.
He would there's no reason for him to do that. There's no reason for him to do that.
The Sounders have zero leverage against a player. This just comes into the business side of things. It's like the Sounders have no leverage on a player coming off his most productive season of his entire career, where they're in a position where they don't have a replacement for him. Who's gonna take the facilitator position if he doesn't re-sign?
Yeah, and people talk about like you need someone better for the Club World Cup. Integrating someone with the amount of time you have before the Club World Cup, you're probably gonna be worse.
Look at Evander.
Just because like there is an adaptation period where that you bring a new guy in as the centerpiece. He has no reps with anybody. He has no time on the training ground with anybody. If you mess with that continuity, move off Rusnak because you think he's more a TAM player, and then try and plug in whatever the new guy is, and then go into the World Cup with your entire attack built around a new player, I would argue you're putting yourself in a worse position for that tournament. So I really don't get people bringing that up as a consideration at all. I think there's a fair amount to be said for maintaining that continuity. So, just another point though, like, if you're Seattle in this situation, I think the leverage that you might have, just as like a hypothetical, would be, you had a good year last year. 3 of your goals, did come against Sean Sawatsky. The offense as a whole didn't produce all that much. It's not like you were dragging the team after all the injuries to a way higher height than it should have. We're the Seattle Sounders. We believe in ourselves to go find a number 10 that we think can do what you do. And if you feel like you had such a good year that you can get DP money, go ahead. They could say that. They
won't.
Well, and the question is, should they?
No, they shouldn't, because like I was saying, like I was trying to say, is like you don't have another option. If there was even a somewhat like for like replacement, even if they were like a step down or 2 steps down, there is legitimately nobody in that position that could step in to what he would do even on a mid-season and replicate his production. It's like, it just sucks, because it's like, okay, that's great. Yes, get him on a TAM or let him go. But the problem is, who are you going to go out and get? Who are you going to go get? Go out and get Evander. Do it. But guess what? You know what he did his first season? Nothing. We made fun of him the whole time because we were like, this guy's literally just a joke.
And he was great this year, but it took time for him to get to that. And
case study.
Yeah, so I actually think the people who are making the club, like, we got the Club World Cup coming up.
Yep.
Like, we gotta move off Rusnak, and I think you're actually making the opposite argument. With that. Like, I think trying to switch that out, like going into the Club World Cup, is actually way riskier than just reinforcing on the foundation that you already have, which was good. I mean, it did get you to the Western Conference Final last year. You just got to boost this offense.
Yep.
All right.
So our last ones here, Leo Chu to Fluminense. I feel like we can just skip this. We can maybe hit on it really quickly.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, that's where I'm at,
when I
too.
see it. Like, if you can get a bag for him from a Brazilian club,
which they think they can,
which they've been thinking,
I don't believe
thinking they can for a long time now. His stock is pretty far down. He was injured all year, didn't really produce.
Got in a fight with
Brian Schmetzer. There was a bunch of drama with that.
Yeah.
Every time he got subbed out, he looked all pissed off. Like, if you can sell him, sell him. I honestly don't. I don't want to hear about this rumor mill anymore until it happens.
Yeah, I just feel bad for the guy. Like, let him go. I don't know. Last one, Seattle Sounders, Jordan Morris contract negotiations. Again, I don't know what this means. I don't know if this means anything, but I just thought it was interesting. I mean, he was also coming off of a hot year.
Yeah, can I make... I mean, I don't know what's going on with the contract. I guess we'll have to wait for more information on that. It is interesting to hear that they're working on something. I would like to make a point about Jordan Morris in a similar vein to the Rusnak discussion, which, I mean, I don't want to be a broken record on all these things, but Noah, let me, just for the sake of argument, pose a question to you. Mm-hmm. Jordan Morris had 18 goals across all comps this season. I don't know what his assist numbers are across all comps, but I know he had 5 in league play. So that's over 20 goal contributions across all comps. 18 goals across all comps is one shy of the record for Seattle Sounders number 9 in a single season, which belongs to Obafemi Martins. Rui Diaz, I don't think ever hit that number. If Seattle had signed a DP number 9 going into this last year, and they put up 18-5 across all comps, leading the line, would you have any problem with them leading the line next year?
No.
So the only reason people do is because it's Jordan Morris.
Yeah.
That's it. So,
well, and that's what, shout out to the interview we did with him. That's what I said. I was like, you're the number 9 we've been wanting. It was kind of a joke. We were just joking about it because I know he understands the friction between all of that. But it was this, like, on pure stats alone, Jordan Morris delivered exactly what we needed during the season.
We're on an island with this too. By far, from the national pundits and the fan base, the prevailing sentiment that I hear is that he did pretty well as the 9 this year.
Won't continue.
But either it won't continue or it's not going to. It's not enough. Like, it's not enough juice to take you to the next level or what. If you go into the Club World Cup with him as your 9, that's an embarrassment. If any number 9, no number 9 that is coming off an 18 goal across all comp season, would that be said about? And so I'm not gonna change how I look at it based on who's providing the production. I'm gonna judge that on the merits. And I saw a very good, very productive number 9 last year, 14-5 after he made the full-time switch to that position. So
he could have had more had he played the full season there. He probably would have broken the record had he started off the season in that position, doing all of that. I don't think it changes the conversation we have because I think people are just in their own head about it. And I will say, I understand if you watch every single Sounders game and you've been watching Jordan for a long time, and there's times where you're like, oh my God, Paul Rothrock just put in the perfect ball. He should have finished that. He's a bot. He's whatever, blah, blah, blah. The prevailing online narrative. Go watch soccer, period. Go watch Pitar Musa, who's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, go watch one of these other DPs from another country that's been brought in. That's like, this high, big signing. Like, yes, he's not Benteke. Fine. You're right. But he's still productive, and he's doing exactly what he needs to be doing. And I hope that he stays on this team.
I mean, yeah, he's absolutely going to be on the roster next year. I think the question is he the centerpiece number 9 that's leading the line? And
with
then
Jesus Ferreira, that is a question.
You devote resources elsewhere. But I mean, the thing I take issue with is this idea that he wasn't good as the number 9 last year, when in reality, like, he put up numbers that if like Obafemi Martins or Rui Diaz put up, you'd be like, yeah, that's like a normal
chill.
season for them. That's what they get paid for. So I don't know. The Rusnak Morris discourse continues to confound, but I'm gonna keep doubling down on our takes on it. All right. I don't think we have all that much else left to get to. Just a couple of parting topics that we had written down here. We can keep this one pretty short off-season episode and then get out of here for episode 79. Noah, what was on your mind with these last 2 topics?
A little bit of let's dive into some questions because we didn't take any from the audience this time. I think I just want to know, we've seen a little bit of the rumor mill. We're not even really technically into the signing period yet, right? It's free agent season. But what are our off-season expectations updated from the last time we talked about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the FC Dallas rumors it's given us something to kind of launch our expectations off of that we didn't have before. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to have to see like what additional moves they make besides these, or if these even, it's not confirmed at this point that these are even happening. But as far as evaluating the offseason as a whole, I think it really just comes down to if these moves get over the line, number one, and then what, if any, moves you make on top of that. For me, if they're able to get Ferreira over the line in particular on a TAM deal, and then they're able to make another big time addition on top of that, I will be excited about the offseason. Like, I really think in terms of skill set and fit on this team, Ferreira, I'm excited at the potential of watching that. Yeah. But it just comes down to how I feel about where the roster stands in attack compared to where it was last year. I think what happened this previous year is that you had De La Vega was the big time addition that was supposed to bolster what it was previously. That obviously didn't pan out. So what I'm looking for the rest of this offseason is for them to exit the offseason looking ahead at this big year with the Club World Cup and CONCACAF Champions Cup with a roster and attack that I feel is meaningfully better and can be expected to produce more goals and more dynamic offense than it has for the last 2 years, frankly. I think Ferreira is a great start to that, but I don't think that it can be everything. So,
and I would hope that it's not everything, and I don't think it would be everything.
Trust us, guys. We are all on the same page with that.
I think, people are going to get tilted about what we said about Rusnak and Morris. But again, we're both on the same page of like, if you legitimately identify someone who is way more talented, way better, is leaps and yards ahead, and you think that they can come in immediately and compete in this team, do it. Like I've been saying, I'd love to see Evander on this team. I think that would be funny. But I also understand that if you make that signing, he might not be integrated into the team in time for Club World Cup. Now, maybe they don't care about Club World Cup. Maybe they care more about Champions Cup. That's way earlier. And I think that people aren't identifying like what Craig and Brian said at their press conference, which was they're obviously going to take Club World Cup seriously, but I think it's valid to say it's a pretty damn hard competition, and it's very improbable that they advance out of their group. And even if they do, who they're going to have to play is going to be a challenge. Yeah. So for them, it makes way more sense to keep their eyes on the prize, which is Champions Cup, which to me, I'd be thrilled to win Club World Cup, but I'm not like going to be upset if we lose. I actually think that they have a chance in Champions Cup if they build out a roster like they're doing right now with Jesus Ferreira, Paul Arriola, these depth pieces, these people who have an understanding of the league. They have an understanding of playing against this South American competition. I don't know, Ari. That is my favorite tournament, dude. Like the feeling of winning
Ferreira is low key a god against CONCACAF.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
dude.
like
He's
his whole reputation. That's his whole reputation.
Like,
so I didn't even really think about that upshot of the signing.
But yeah, I'll wrap it up in a tidy bow by saying my updated offseason expectations is a lot less than I think most people online. I think that it is going to be more about filling out the roster that they already have and they already believe is somewhat good. It's going to be about finding pieces to take pressure off De La Vega. It's going to be about finding ways to
supplement Morris and Rusnak.
Exactly, supplement Morris and Rusnak, because they saw, hey, we were 5 minutes from basically winning MLS Cup.
With Georgie out there, who like is a Tacoma Defiance kid that had barely played in MLS.
Yeah.
You know, imagine like that's not a shot at Georgie at all. I don't want it to sound like that. It's just the reality was like he was in a tough situation where, you know, if they can bolster those spots on the roster, it will go a long way in making this team much more competitive.
Yeah, and my expectations aren't what I want, because if in my dreams I want a $50 million DP striker, but like I'm trying to be realistic in what I believe is actually going to happen.
Right. Yeah. As far as the Club World Cup goes, I feel like the objective there is you just can't be an active embarrassment to the league and the city.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that
on a Monday night at 4:30.
I really the results of that tournament are pretty immaterial to me. It's more about just like putting on a dignified performance and not totally torpedoing, which honestly in the last one, for however people were mad people were about that game against Al Ali, that was a good game. It was a competitive game.
Yeah, it was a fun game.
So like, I don't know, putting up against, you know, PSG and Atletico Madrid and even Botafogo, that's like a different animal than Al Ali, but you just got to compete with dignity. That's all I ask. I forgot to mention, but we got some comments on our live stream. We were watching Botafogo highlights, which the feds actually came after us for that.
FIFA came after us.
We had to
We had
to cease and desist to get our money from that. But so we were clowning on Botafogo, not because we know anything about them at all, but we were watching their game where they got boat raced against Pachuca. They were conceding goals, and we were kind of joking around. Oh, Seattle's going to have a field day against these guys. A couple people who actually follow the Brazilian league jumped in the comments to point out, apparently Botafogo was in some crazy like schedule where they were across the world, flew in for the Pachuca game, where they had 5 17-year-olds out there or something, completely rotated lineup, jet lag, you know, all that stuff.
They had just won like the league the day before, and they were playing that game in Qatar, I believe.
Yes.
So it was like, their entire second team was in Qatar and their first team was in Brazil. Yeah.
So the point being, the highlights we watched in that game in particular is evidently, unfortunately, not indicative of the quality of Botafogo's defense at all. But that's exactly what I was going to say. Is I changed nothing about my take on that, because that was pretty funny watching them concede those goals, and I prefer to dream that the Seattle Sounders are going to do that against them. All right. Do we have anything else that we wanted to hit?
Yeah. I just wanted to hit one more here. Are we excited by what we've initially seen? Are we happy?
I'm honestly excited about the Ferreira thing. I mean, I realize I've watched him a lot more than most people, so I know how good of an MLS player he is. I know he didn't have a good year last year. From everything that I've heard, he was very unhappy at FC Dallas. FC Dallas was not happy with him. It sounded like a bit of a toxic dynamic. And at his best in MLS, this is a big-time, very productive goal scorer who he's fun to watch, man. It's really not like it's not as boring a signing as people are making it out to be in terms of what he gives you on the field. Like Rusnak, I think, you know, if I'm being honest about what part of the anti-Rusnak sentiment is, he's not necessarily the flashiest player. It's not like the sexiest
not a part of his
signing.
Game, no.
Yeah, it's more.
He's a great passer.
Yeah, but it's not like he's not going to be
Ricky
on
Puig.
any and one mixtapes like Ricky Puig dribbling through the entire defense. So I think people want to see more. Something more dynamic. Ferreira's got a dynamic skill set. I'm just telling you, like, you can go look at his MLS highlights. It's not blowing smoke. You don't score 53 goals in MLS before you turn 24, like, for no reason. Like, that's the fastest pace of any player his age ever. So in the league. Yep. So I am genuinely excited about that potential addition to this roster if the money's right.
If the money's right, come on. It's a great signing. I'm stoked. Listen, I was at Ferreira's first ever game. I photographed it, and he scored a goal in his first ever game. The hype around this kid has been massive since he jumped into the league. He's 24. You can have a down season when you're 24, and it doesn't it doesn't mean anything. I don't think he's washed. I don't think he's bad. And I think if the Sounders can get him on a TAM deal, which I think is most likely how this would happen, that is a piece of business where all of the Craig Weibel haters, I think, are going to have to just shut up, because that is an amazing piece of business. Taking a DP, making DP money and saying, just come over to our club because you're going to have a chance to do what you want to do.
He's got to do that, though. He's got to get it over the line.
I'm just saying, if he gets it over the line,
if he does, that's
they better give him his flowers for that, because that is some good wheeling and dealing.
We're gonna if Craig Weibs gets Jesus Ferreira on TAM, we're gonna be praising Craig Weibs. We're gonna need him on. Craig, come on the show.
Craig, come on the show. We'll play pinball. I know you like pinball.
All right, I think that's about a good place to leave it, Noah. Does that sound? Unless you had anything else that you wanted to hit. All right. Good off-season episode. Thank you so much, as always, to everyone for tuning in.
Tune into the stream.
We love and appreciate every single one of you. Yes, we are going live this Friday at 7:30. Nico Moreno, he ignored my text to our
He's
group
big
chat.
Time now.
He claims that he didn't get the text. We're going to try and get him on. I have one other idea for someone I'm going to try and get to stream with us. But either
Tom
way,
Bogert doesn't want to come on.
He was in chat, though. He was in chat. So
you
definitely
can bother him.
If you guys didn't tune into the live stream last time, definitely tune in. It was a lot of fun. And
Jeremiah broke news
live, and you get to interact with us in real time. You can put chats and super chats in there, and we'll talk about them as we go. And the last one, it ripped. It was awesome.
It was
fun. This one's going to be good too. And hopefully we're going to have more content to talk about by then. Like, comment, subscribe in the meantime. Sub to the YouTube. And sub to all our socials. We need more on IG, and we need more on TikTok.
Before they ban it.
Yeah.
On January 19th, on my birthday.
Our TikTok is actually doing a little better, but we could use more followers on both of those. So hit us with follow on IG and TikTok. All right. We're going to call it right there. We will see you guys for the live show Friday at 7:30 PT. Until then, we out.
Peace.